Welcome back. In this module, we talk about the psychology of influence and how attackers manipulate human behavior. Most successful cyber attacks do not begin with technology, they begin with influence. Attackers rarely need to defeat sophisticated technical defenses if they can persuade someone to act on their behalf. A single click, reply, approval, or moment of hesitation can bypass layers of security that were expensive to design and deploy. To understand modern cyber risk, you must understand how human decision making works under pressure and how attackers deliberately shape that pressure. This section explores the psychology of influence behind social engineering, not as a collection of tricks, but as a systematic exploitation of perception, emotion, and context. It explains why intelligent, capable people make decisions that attackers exploit, and why those decisions are often reasonable given the circumstances. Humans are not the weakest link, they are the interface. Security discussions often describe people as the weakest link. This framing is misleading. Humans are not weak, they are adaptive, social decision makers. They rely on trust, cooperation, and responsiveness to function in complex environments. These traits are not flaws. They are what allow organizations to operate at all. Attackers do not succeed because people are careless. They succeed because systems are designed around speed, trust, and collaboration. In modern organizations, humans are the primary interface between systems, and attackers understand this and design their strategies accordingly. Why influence is more reliable than exploits? Technical vulnerabilities change, software is patched, defenses evolve. Human psychology is far more stable. Influence techniques that worked decades ago still work today because they target cognitive patterns that are deeply ingrained. Attackers prefer influence because it is adaptable, scalable, and effective across environments. Instead of breaking systems, they work around them. Influence turns legitimate users into unwitting participants. Cognitive shortcuts. How decisions are made under pressure. Human brains rely on heuristics, which are mental shortcuts that allow fast decision making in complex environments. These shortcuts are efficient. Without them, everyday work would slow to a halt, but heuristics trade accuracy for speed. Attackers exploit this trade off. Influence succeeds when it reduces perceived risk, increases perceived urgency, mimics familiar patterns, and aligns with expectations. The goal is not deception alone, it is decision acceleration. Authority or borrowing power. One of the most powerful influence triggers is authority. People are conditioned to respond quickly to perceived authority. It enables coordination and reduces friction. Attackers exploit this by impersonating figures or systems that are expected to command compliance. Authority can be signaled through titles and roles, formal language, branding and formatting, references to internal processes. When authority is perceived, skepticism drops. Verification feels unnecessary or even inappropriate. In digital environments where cues are limited, authority is easy to fake and difficult to challenge. Urgency or collapsing deliberation. Urgency is another powerful lever. When people feel time pressure, they rely more on intuition, skip verification, and prioritize speed over accuracy. Attackers manufacture urgency deliberately. They set artificial deadlines, frame requests as emergencies, warn of negative consequences, or imply that delay will cause harm. Urgency is not incidental, it is engineered to collapse thoughtful decision making. Familiarity and context, making the abnormal feel normal. Humans trust what looks familiar. Messages that match expected tone, timing, and format are less likely to be questioned. Attackers invest heavily in understanding context, organizational language, workflows, and rhythms. They reference real names, current projects, recent events, and common processes. When something fits the context, it feels safe, even when it is not. This is why generic attacks fail and targeted ones succeed. Reciprocity or creating obligation. The principle of reciprocity is deeply ingrained in human behavior. When someone appears to help you, you feel an obligation to respond. Attackers exploit this by offering assistance, providing information, or solving a small problem first. Once reciprocity is activated, resistance weakens. Saying no feels socially costly. This technique is particularly effective in collaborative environments. Social proof or borrowing legitimacy. People look to others for cues, especially under uncertainty. If a behavior appears common or endorsed, it feels safer. Attackers use social proof by referencing colleagues, implying prior approvals, and mimicking group norms. The message becomes not, is this safe? But everyone else seems to be doing this. Social proof reduces perceived risk without reducing actual risk. Scarcity and loss aversion. Humans are more motivated to avoid loss than to pursue gain. Attackers exploit this by framing inaction as costly. Account suspension, missed opportunities, expired access, or lost data. Scarcity narrows focus. It pushes people towards action rather than reflection. This is why warnings feel more compelling than benefits. Emotion overrides analysis. Emotion is a shortcut, and attackers know it. Fear accelerates action, curiosity bypasses caution, and empathy lowers all defenses. Attackers tailor emotional triggers to context. A message about security may evoke fear, and an unexpected document may trigger curiosity, and a personal request may exploit empathy. These emotions are not weaknesses, they are human. The problem is not emotion itself, it is unexamined emotion under pressure. Why rational people fall for social engineering? Social engineering is often described as tricking people. This framing misses the point. Most victims do not act irrationally, they act reasonably given the information presented, the authority implied, the urgency felt, and the context assumed. Attackers control information asymmetry, timing, framing, and emotional state. Under these conditions, even cautious people can be influenced. Digital environments amplify influence. Digital communication strips away many natural safeguards. You cannot see hesitation, you cannot hear tone reliably, and you cannot easily verify context. At the same time, digital communication scales instantly. It feels informal and it encourages speed. Attackers exploit these properties relentlessly. Influence becomes easier when cues are fewer and friction is low. Trust is a feature, not a bug. Organizations depend on trust, and without trust, work slows, collaboration breaks, and decisions stall. Attackers succeed not because trust exists, but because they borrow it. The goal of cybersecurity is not to eliminate trust, it is to protect it intelligently. Why awareness alone fails? Traditional awareness training focuses on warnings. Be careful, don't click, verify requests. These messages assume knowledge alone changes behavior. In reality, stress overrides training. Context dominates rules. Habits drive decisions, and incentives shape behavior. Awareness is necessary, but insufficient. Effective defense requires design that supports secure behavior under real conditions. Designing for human reality. Human centered security accepts that people will be busy, make fast decisions, and trust familiar patterns. Instead of fighting this reality, it designs around it, making verification easy, reducing unnecessary urgency, normalizing pauses, supporting skepticism without blame, and people are not the problem to be fixed. They are part of the system to be designed. Influence at scale in the AI age. Modern attackers do not manipulate one person at a time. They automate influence. They test variations. They refine messaging. They scale success. AI accelerates this process by generating realistic, adaptive communication at scale. This makes psychological understanding more important and not less. The insider dimension. Not all influence is external. Internal actors can also manipulate trust, authority, and access, intentionally or unintentionally. Understanding influence dynamics helps in identify insider risk without assuming malice. Impact matters more than intent. Why this section matters. Every technical control in cybersecurity can be bypassed if a human is persuaded to act. This does not make technical controls irrelevant. It makes human behavior central. Understanding influence allows you to interpret incidents accurately, avoid simplistic blame, design better defenses, and build resilient systems. Cybersecurity that ignores psychology will always be incomplete. Key takeaway. Social engineering works because it aligns with how humans naturally think, decide, and trust. Attackers do not rely on ignorance. They rely on context, emotion, and pressure. Effective cybersecurity does not fight human nature. It designs with it in mind.